Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, pro physique athlete. Today I'm going to be giving you a full 4-day hypertrophy program based on the Dr. Swole split. This is a split that I came up with years ago that I think works really well for 4 days per week. Here's the split. It divides your body up into 2 days and is basically a hybrid between the Arnold split and push-pull. You can see the push-pull element reflected in how the legs are divided. So we've got quads and calves, which are more push type leg movements on day 1. And on the second day, we have hamstring and glute exercises, which tend to be more pulling type leg movements. And then you can see the Arnold split is reflected in how the upper body is divided. So we put chest and back together and then shoulders and arms together. I think this combination has some unique advantages that other splits don't have, which we'll talk about later. We'll be doing a program walkthrough where I'll share everything you'll need to know to run the program yourself, including exercises, sets, and reps. We'll talk about the weekly setup or how to split up your workouts across the week. And finally, we'll talk about the pros and cons of this 4-day program based on the Dr. Swole split. All right, let's do our program walkthrough. So this is the Dr. Swole split program. It's a 4-day program set with low volumes designed for beginners. We've got day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. Your exercises are here, and here are your sets and reps. Down here we have the total number of sets for each workout to give you an idea of workout length. Let's start off with day 1. I'll note quickly that this is basically set up in an AB format where you have the day 1 and day 2 of my split, but I have labeled it day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4 because there is some difference across the week, which we'll talk about later. We kick it off with squats for the quads, 3 sets, and we're going to use the top set back off method here. So warm up to one top heavy set of 5 to 8 reps, and then take about 10% off the bar and do 2 more back off sets with 5 to 8 reps. And this will allow you to get in some heavy strength work on that top set while still accumulating more volume with your back off sets. Then we have incline bench press, which is going to be your main chest movement of the program. 4 sets, and we're also using a top set back off method here. So 1 top heavy set of 5 to 8 reps, followed by 3 back off sets of 5 to 8 reps with about 10% lighter weight. Then we have leg extensions for the quads, 2 sets of 10 to 15, followed by single arm dumbbell rows for the back, 3 sets of 6 to 10. And I do want you going heavy on these. After that, neutral grip lat pull downs for the back, 3 sets of 8 to 12. And then we have cable upright rows for the side delts, 3 sets of 8 to 12. At this point, you might be wondering why we have side delt work here, even though that wasn't actually in the split. And this is because I've modified the split to divide up some of your side delt work so you can be more fresh for all your sets across the week. Then we have machine calf raises for the calves. We're using a my rep scheme here, so you're going to work up to 1 main set of 10 to 15 reps, followed by 5 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps with the same weight, but only taking about 10 seconds of rest in between. This will make sure that you're staying close to failure on all of those reps and getting the most out of them. I'll approximate this as 4 straight sets. Then we have day 2. We start off with Romanian deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets, and you're going to work up to 1 top set of 6 to 10 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 6 to 10 reps with about 10% lighter weight. I think RDLs are awesome for the glutes and hamstrings, and they work very well as a main movement of the program. So you'll notice that we don't actually have any deadlifting from the floor in this program. So really try to be going heavy on this. Then we have lunges for the glutes and hamstrings, but also the quads, 2 sets of 8 to 12. And this is 8 to 12 reps per side. I'd recommend trying doing these as walking dumbbell lunges. Then we have close grip bench press for the chest, but also the triceps, 3 sets. We're also using a top set back off method here, 1 top heavy set of 6 to 10 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 6 to 10 reps. I really like separating shoulders and arms from chest and back in this split because it allows you to slip in some accessory presses like this close grip bench press, which I actually primarily count for triceps, but we can use it as an accessory movement for our chest here, which gives you a bit of a higher frequency for your chest training. Then we have incline bicep curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps. After that, cable press downs for the triceps, 4 sets of 8 to 12. Seated dumbbell curls for the biceps, 2 sets of 8 to 12. And finally, cable lateral raises for the side delts, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Moving on to day 3, we start off with Smith machine squats for the quads, 3 sets of 6 to 10. After that, dumbbell bench press for the chest. You're going to work up to 1 top heavy set of 6 to 10 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 6 to 10 reps. Notice that we are using the top set back off method for both dumbbell bench press and incline bench press. This is a very versatile technique, so you can program it for multiple movements in the same program, even for the same muscle group. But notice that we have changed up the rep ranges a little bit here. So this incline bench press is a little bit more focused on strength. And as a general rule, barbell movements are going to work well as a main heavy movement. Obviously, dumbbell bench press here could also work very well in a heavy rep range. Then we have leg presses also for the quads, 2 sets of 8 to 12, and then barbell rows for the back, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Notice that I'm alternating upper and lower body movements here. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I do like giving your quads a little bit of rest in between training them. Then we have dumbbell pullovers for the back, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Cable upright rows for the side delts, but also the traps, 3 sets of 10 to 15. And finally, leg press calf raises for the calves. And we're using a mile rep scheme here again. 1 main set of 8 to 12 reps, followed by 5 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps. And we're approximating this as 4 straight sets. Going on to day 4, we started with barbell back extensions for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 6 to 10. I like setting the back extension machine at about 55 degrees here. And then leg curls for the hamstrings, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Notice that I've chosen relatively quad dominant quad movements for day 3 and then more hamstring dominant leg movements for day 4. This will make sure that you don't have interference between your days. If, for example, I put something like a sumo deadlift on day 4, you may have trouble with it if you have sore quads from day 3. Moving on, we have machine overhead press, which mainly hit the anterior delts, but also a little bit of upper pecs and triceps, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Dumbbell preacher curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 6 to 10. And I recommend doing these single arm with a bench set at about 60 degrees. Then we have easy bar skull crushers for the triceps, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Rope hammer curls for the biceps, 2 sets of 10 to 15. And finally, machine lateral raises for the side delts, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Notice that you can superset these 2 movements, dumbbell preacher curl and easy bar skull crusher, on your bench. All right, now that you've seen the program, let's talk about the split layout. So here are how the days are spread out across the week. You've got day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. First of all, with this split, you do want to split up your rest days as much as possible. In particular, trying to split up these first 2 days. This allows us to split up our main heavy leg movements on our first 2 days, namely squats and RDLs. Also notice that you want some space for your shoulders and arms to rest. Since your arms do get used indirectly with your chest and back training, and the fact that I've split up side delts over all days, you do want to spread out these days as much as possible to give you more opportunity for recovery in between. This split is somewhat of a modified full body split since we have parts of our upper body and lower body trained in each workout. I can see some people might be worried by what happens later in the week where we do have some leg training back to back. Shoulders do also come after chest later in the week. We'll talk about how I address these issues later. I really like how this program splits up your quads with a main glute and hamstring day in between, separated by rest days. This allows you to program heavy squat type movements on these days and a heavy hip hinge on this day. This gives you more flexibility in your programming than with a split that just has 2 leg days, like say upper lower or push pull legs. When you're able to separate your heavy deadlift from your squat movements on a different day, you're able to perform better on that exercise. It also allows you to distribute the stress of your training across your workouts. So your leg training isn't all concentrated on 2 days, but it's split up over all 4 days. What split do you guys want to see me cover next? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, now let's talk about the pros and cons of this 4-day low volume doctor split program. First of all, with the pros, this program allows you to train your shoulders and arms when they're fresh. This happens in the Dr. Swole split since we split up our shoulder and arm from our chest and back training. And it is basically the Arnold component of the split. Often shoulders and arms take a back seat to your main chest and back pushing and pulling movements. And this can be an issue because if you are fatigued from those main compound movements, you may not perform as well on your direct isolation work later. So I really like being able to train your shoulders and arms when they're fresh. Next, the Dr. Swole split gives you a high frequency of shoulder and arm training. As you saw, I divided up side delts over all workouts, which was a modification I made to my own split. And you'll notice that arms get trained 4 times per week in this program, since they do get used indirectly with your chest and back pulling and pushing movements. So you're training them indirectly on day 1 and day 3 and training them directly on day 2 and day 4. Moving on, this program has excellent fatigue distribution. Fatigue distribution is how you split up the stress of your training across the week. As we mentioned before, you could categorize this split as somewhat of a modified full body split. This is because you have parts of your leg training and upper body training in each workout. I really like this because it allows you to split up your leg training across the week, which evens out your training stress and allows you to get more out of your leg movements. I remember coming out of the gym the other day and seeing someone hobbling down the stairs holding onto the rail for support. Obviously, they had a really tough leg day, but you can imagine on the last few sets of that leg day, they probably weren't performing as well as they were earlier in the workout. The advantage of dividing up your leg training means that you get to hit your legs more often when they've had a little bit of time to recover. Also notice in this split that we combine quads and calves, which is your relatively easier part of leg training, with chest and back, which is the relatively more difficult part of upper body training. This serves to really evenly balance out your workouts in terms of fatigue. In a lot of other splits, there is quite a bit of asymmetry between your workouts. For example, in push-pull legs, your leg days are much harder than your upper body days. Lastly, this program gives you some priority to your accessory press and deadlift movements. Since we have a day where we have shoulders and arms trained separately from chest and back in the middle of the week, you can put a heavy accessory press like a close grip bench press or weighted dips on that day and really be able to overload it. You could also do this for an overhead press, but I decided to put our overhead press movement on day 4 in this program, and I'm giving overhead press a little bit less priority than close grip bench press here. Also, as we mentioned, you can put your heavy deadlift on that day too, and it allows it to be separated from your heavy squat type movements. Okay, now let's talk about the cons of this Dr. Swole split program. First of all, as we mentioned before, leg training comes back to back later in the week. We have quads and calves followed by glutes and hamstrings the day after. I've starred this con because we have addressed this in this program. This could be an issue depending on your exercise selection, but we have gotten around this issue here by putting relatively anterior focused quad movements on our quad and calf day and relatively posterior chain dominant movements for our hamstrings and glutes the day after. Barbell back extension, and leg curls. This minimizes the interaction between these 2 days. You'll also notice that shoulders comes right after chest on the later 2 days. I have also addressed this in this program by putting a relatively lower priority movement for our shoulders, our machine overhead press on day 4, which shouldn't have too much overlap with your dumbbell bench press the day before. Note that if you did want to really prioritize your overhead press, I'd recommend putting it earlier in the week on the day 2. So keep in mind that even if you're looking at a split and it seems like there may be interference between days, this isn't necessarily a problem if you know how to choose your exercises as well as auto-regulate. So all in all, I think the Dr. Swole split is a really powerful programming setup. So if you're looking for a 4-day split, definitely think about giving this one a try. I will be sharing the full program as an Excel file in my Facebook group. So if you haven't joined the group already, the link is in the description below. Join the group and you can download the Excel file. If you want to see an example of a different 4-day split, check out this video where I share a full 4-day hypertrophy program based on the upper-lower split. The upper-lower split is one of my favorite setups for 4 days per week, and you'll see how I make modifications to the traditional upper-lower to make it a top-tier split. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more free hypertrophy programs. I post a new one every week, and we'll see you next time.